Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about another episode of the Wheel of Time TV show. This is episode 6, The Flame of Tarvalin. So as always, I'm going to talk a little quick non-spoilery thoughts and opinions up front, then move over to spoilers where we can talk in more detail. So as always, if you're interested in my reactions to these episodes, you can check that out down on Patreon. The link is in the description below. And with that being said, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And let's begin. So this episode, The Flame of Tarvalin. Holy crap, this was a really, really good episode. Oh, I liked it so much. I liked it so much. But I'm really, really interested to see how people who haven't been reading the books or haven't read all the books feel about this episode, because to me, this episode just felt like almost nothing but hints and winks and foreshadowing for later book stuff. Almost every little bit of dialogue felt like it was a hint and a wink at stuff that'll happen way down the line, or just reference to those things regardless if they happen or not. So I just thought that was really interesting. So almost everything that was being said, I'm just up there like, oh, I know that. Oh, I'm just up there like half freaking out at every little thing. I'm like, oh, that's talking about that. Oh, you were referring to that. Oh, that's a little interesting thing to say before this thing. Like, so it's just all that kind of stuff. And I'm just sitting there like losing my mind. Like, I thought this episode was so well done. There was very, very little action, almost no action at all in the episode. And it just was so well done though. Like, all the character interaction, all the plays on the characters' personalities and stuff, and the way everything kind of comes together and leads to this thing that, you know, how we leave the episode off. I just thought it was really, really well done. The music stood out to me a lot in this episode. There were some scenes where you can hear in the music, they're saying things like Aes Sedai or saying Sidene and stuff, like mentioning the power, but like in this very subtle like kind of operatic way, but like the it's like chanting, like old like religious music kind of stuff, like so it's very subtle, and it plays into it so well, because the White Tower itself kind of feels a little bit like a church in a lot of ways. So just all those music cues and stuff that they did, it just worked so well. I don't know what it was about the costume and the makeup and stuff in this episode too. It just seemed like it was a step up higher. Like even the lighting and the directing, every time we were in the White Tower and just like following Moraine and just going around and stuff, it just was visually noticeably better to me. Like the lighting was like somehow like the brightness was turned down a little bit in those scenes, and it's like the contrast was up or something. The colors really, really popped, and everything looked a little darker, slightly more gritty, but at the same time very pristine and stuff. It just, I don't know, something about this episode, the way the directing was done, like all that kind of stuff, it came together so much better for me than some of the other episodes have. It just like the complete package of this episode was just so well done to me. And previous episode we got our introduction to Loyal, who I didn't talk about much at all. And last episode I had a huge issue with the way his makeup looked. I didn't talk about it much because I didn't want to be dramatically negative about it. But I really do love the fact that he is, you know, a real person, and they just kind of did what they did with Hagrid, and, you know, made him a little taller. He's nowhere near as big as he's supposed to be, but like they made him bigger and stuff and made him look inhuman. But I just don't understand why his makeup looks so obviously fake. Like all the prosthetics and stuff look so incredibly fake. Like their skin texture is really bad. Like I don't know if it's like an uncanny valley thing because its proportions and stuff are so strange. So it's very easy to kind of nitpick it and see it or whatever. But I really didn't appreciate. I mean, I don't know. Appreciation is, I guess, aside from. But I really didn't care for it. Honestly, I didn't really care for the way his makeup looked at all. And I do think it's kind of cool though. He's got like the blonde hair and stuff, and it's a little more. It's an interesting contrast than what I was assuming, because I assumed because they cast a black actor that he was gonna like have a fro or something. So I kind of appreciate they keep it in this kind of not typical, you know, human kind of thing. You know, he can have interesting contradictions about his look that, you know, I guess as far as humans it would be considered contradictory, even though there's a lot of black people with blonde hair. So whatever. But like I kind of dig some of the design choices they made with him. But overall, like his prosthetics and stuff didn't come off looking that great to me. And his personality, I thought it was really interesting because I've always seen Loyal as a very intelligent, hyperactive kind of, you know, because he's always presented as being young, especially for an Ogier. He's very, very young. So in my head, it's just always this enthusiastic, nerdy, book-loving kind of young scholar kid kind of thing, but, you know, obviously larger than life. And here, he seems to be matured. He's like far more mature. He comes off to me as a talkative, overexcited, very knowledgeable professor, like an older version, basically like Loyal from the books, plus another 100 years or something. Like his maturity seems to be ramped up a little, stepped up a bit. So I kind of I don't know really how I feel about it. I'm kind of okay with it. I'm kind of missing the innocence of Loyal from the books, but I'm interested to see what they do with it. I guess he can be more of an information packet, like an exposition dump lore kind of person or something. He can be like add in with that, like stuff that Moraine needs to tell them, but probably won't tell them because how secret she is and stuff like that. So maybe he can like help with that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do with it, but I do know to see it's distinctly different from the books and distinctly different than my impressions of him. So I'm curious to see how if I enjoy him as much as I do in the books. So back to the episode at hand. So this episode had a lot of interplay with characters. There was a lot of pulls from other books. There was a lot of minute. Well, I mean, I guess some of that information can be more explicit later, but at least up to where I am in the books, some of the stuff that they explained in this episode was like things that were tiny hints in the books and stuff, but they just kind of blossomed them very much in this episode, and I just really appreciate it. So I want to go ahead and jump over into spoilers so I can talk in a little bit more detail, because a lot of little stuff in this episode is just so good, so we got to talk about it. So spoilers for The Flame of Tarval in episode 6 of The Wheel of Time. Alright, so the cold open. I really, really love that cold open. When we get to see Swan as a little girl with her dad and they're in the fishing village. At first I'm like, who is this? Where are we? This place looks amazing. It was just visually where we were, just looked awesome. I just thought it was so cool. I'm like, who is this? And then I didn't even recognize the tattoos or anything. I didn't make any connections. And then I'm like, oh wait, fishing village. Oh crap, Swan is from fishing village. She always like make references to that. And I'm like, holy crap, they're really holding to it so strongly. And I just love that so much. And like the dynamic between her and her father, like at first I was just, kind of going along with it or whatever. The young girl actress, I don't know if, it's that typical child actor kind of not doing a great job thing, but she just had kind of a very neutral face through a lot of it when I felt like there should have been a little bit more emotion. But towards the end of it, when they started crying and stuff, she kind of caught me with that, like her tears and stuff. I was like, okay, I'm feeling more of the emotion. But her dad, I don't know who the actor is that played her dad, but holy crap, he almost had me bawling. I'm like, I don't know, just such a pouring of empathy for that, like his fear for his daughter and stuff, and knowing he has to send her to the White Tower probably because the White Cloaks are going to come after her and stuff. So it's just like it was just so heartbreaking, and knowing that they probably never even saw each other again, and then just like seeing how ingrained their fishing culture and stuff like that is to them, like it makes so much more sense, all the references and stuff Swan makes later on in the books and everything, how she always basically make references to being from a fishing village, being like, tough and all that stuff, and like her idioms and things are all very fish related and stuff. So I just really appreciate that we're like leaning really hard into that, and it's very much a core tenet to who she is. And when we got to that part though, when we showed this very sympathetic background, I was like, oh, that definitely means when we see her as an adult, she's gonna be a total hard ass. She's gonna be like merciless and like just go like, be just the complete hard ass to all the Aes Sedai. And she kind of was, and I thought it was so appropriate because that's kind of how she was in the books. And you don't find out until later on about everything they basically show in this episode. You don't find out later on about, her knowing Moraine for years and years and years and having been best friends and, pillow friends and all this stuff. And so I just like the fact that we kind of immediately get to see that. So later on in the episode, when she's basically before the Amerlin, when she, basically they're writing, basically talking about all the stuff she's done or hasn't done and stuff she won't tell. So they're talking about, she's got the 5 Targaryen. I guess they're all Targaryen now. I'm just going to consider it that, really. But like the way she ends up in the situation where she like can't tell her what she was doing and she has to hold that secret. The whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, Swan, though. I'm like, what she was doing. You know what she's about. But you rated her the riot act and all this stuff. I'm like, but like you're probably the only other person that does really know. But then I'm so happy we didn't have to wait so long for that confirmation, because later on when Moraine goes to her room and stuff, like they explicitly talk about like the stuff that happened in the New Spring. Like they talk about the having seen that other Aes Sedai have the vision and dying from it and stuff. So like they're speculating. I'm like, okay, yes, okay, perfect. I'm like, yeah, I'm so happy that they didn't get rid of the fact that Swan knows all of this. She's totally in the loop. They were like basically working on this together when like 20 years ago or whatever. Like, so it's just, I'm so happy that all that was there. And then all the hints of them having been pillow friends and stuff, they just took it and was like, no, they are outright dating. They've been secretly together probably these last 20 years, and just I bought it so hard. Like it just was so good. The episode just, it was just too good. But like their relationship, like for for the actress that plays Swan to have not been in the show and like haven't been truly established, I can't believe how well they established who she is, her personality, her mannerisms, and all this stuff. And then the way they were able to perfectly establish the nature of their relationship, I thought was just so well done. I'm really happy that Swan and Moraine are still together and it's not just some stuff they did in the past or whatever. Because where I am in the books now, it's a lot more explicitly being talked about. How a lot of the accepted and even like the novices and stuff, a lot of the girls will end up pairing up and stuff. And a lot of the older women kind of dismiss it as, like all girl boarding school or whatever. So they just, it just happens because of the environment of being all women or whatever. But like they also do acknowledge that some of those women, they stick together. Like they end up in a relationship for years and years and years, or even if they break up with that other woman, they end up with another woman. Basically acknowledging that bisexuals and lesbians exist, really. So I just thought that was really, really cool. And just, I really love the dynamic of their relationship. It just, when they were together alone and stuff, it just, you can feel the way all those secrets and stuff like that between them has tied them together. Like you can feel this, like, secret codependency they have on each other, but they both are blue, so they are so righteous and they're so still so focused on their mission and the greater good and stuff. So like even though they so desperately want to be together, they can't be together. So I just love how it was done. I just can't get over it. I can't say enough good things. And the actress whose name, I'm gonna look her name up right now. Let's see. Hold on, give me a second. Suain Sanche, actress. See, even everybody else on the internet is asking the same thing. Sophie Okinido. That is an awesome last name. I'm sure I butchered it, but that is an awesome last name. But Sophie, holy crap. Like, just so well done. She's so great. She's so pretty, too. I was so captivated by her eyes. Just like, it's insane. But, like, I'm sorry, I just watched the episode, so I'm still kind of in rambly freak out mode a little bit. Because it's just so well done. She's like, everything she has behind her face is just so well done. It's so perfect. Like, the way their dynamic played off of each other, I loved it. The way she just commanded the room as the Amerlin, it was so good. She was even able to do like that Aes Sedai calm, like her face and that serenity she had on her face and stuff. I just thought it was brilliant. But I just thought it was hilarious too in that moment when she's like dressing the three of them down, like Leandra, and it's up there like she's just mean mugging and just got pouty face and all this stuff. I'm like, where's your Aes Sedai calm? Where's that serene face thing? It's like she's just really sitting over there just so mad. I thought it was so funny. And there's something else that's a little subtle too that they did with their wardrobes that either they had done it before and I just hadn't noticed. But Elida, like, you know how, well, at least in the books, if you're familiar with the books, the green Aja, because they can have multiple waters, they're basically, without calling them like sluts, they're basically sexually liberal, more or less. Like that's kind of the impression, because a lot of them have multiple waters and stuff, and a good chunk of them, like Leandra or Elida, will bang their waters and stuff. So I just kind of like the idea that they are more like free and kind of more little, I guess, sexually rambunctious, I guess, for lack of a better term. So it's kind of expressed in the fact that even when they all changed outfits and got a little more formal, like she, as a green, had a low cut dress. So she had like way more cleavage than Leandra and Moraine and stuff and some of the other ones. So it just kind of goes into that, more, I don't know. For me, it's green. It's like his earth is more spiritual, a little hippie like and stuff like that. So I kind of dig that a lot. So I really appreciate like the costuming stuff, even though like Moraine's outfits are basically always the same. Even Leandra's and a lot of them, their outfits are basically the same. But there seemed to be like little hints and differences in this episode, and I picked up on a lot of them, and it just made me enjoy it so much more. I don't know, I just enjoyed it so much. But something that I also thought was a little weird, though, I mean, it kind of goes into Moraine's secretive nature, but the fact that Perrin and Egwene made it to the White Tower, and Matt and Rand and Nynaeve, like they were all there, but Moraine didn't tell them they were all there yet. She waited basically until they were going to leave through the Waygate for them all to reunite. And I just didn't really understand that. Like, because a lot of their primary concerns was where, our other people are and stuff. So the fact that Moraine knew they all were in the city and they all were in these locations and just didn't say anything, she eventually, got them back together and stuff. But I don't know, I just thought that was a little weird. I would have complained about it in their situation, but it probably was just a little easier to deal with their situations in like a micro form. And like in this episode, Perrin didn't basically get any lines. I don't even think he got like just the one line at the end. But I thought it was weird. Like we made a big stink about him being, he was still injured and stuff, and they were in there. And he was basically passed out for the entire episode, like I guess resting or whatever. And Moraine says like his wounds will be like they were never there because the best healers in the world are the Yellow Aja sisters at the White Tower. I don't know if it was a lack of budget or if the scene got cut or what, but like they didn't show Perrin's scars, they didn't show the healing, they didn't show him recover, anything like that. So I'm wondering if it's a deleted scene because this episode was a solid whole hour. So I'm interested to know if that was probably a deleted scene or they just kind of, I don't know, because it came off to me as like, you talked about it, but you didn't really show it. So it was a show don't tell kind of thing. But I can accept it. Oh, and I love how Nynaeve just continues to call BS on everything. Like anything Moraine or Swan was like telling her, so she's like, nope, what you want? I don't buy it. I ain't buying none of it. She just like calls BS on everything, and I love it because it's legit. Like she should be on a lot of this stuff, especially. But I thought it was so cool though, like when her and Egwene were talking to the Amerlin, like Nynaeve was like talking, she ain't taking shit or nothing, but like Egwene is so strong. She already gives off so much of this strength about her. Like, and I just love all these little hints. It's so obvious that like they made pauses. Like there was some stuff that was said, huge spoiler for the books. So if you don't want to know anything about the books, I'm going to try to, be respectful of people who haven't read the books and are watching the show and, be careful about that. So spoilers for the books. But in the books, Egwene becomes the Amerlin seat. And they kind of do a hint in a way where Swan basically makes mention to like something about having the seat or being Amerlin or whatever. And then they explicitly pause. There's an explicit pause, no dialogue moment before somebody else speaks. And to me, that was just very clear for them to, that was just very much them saying, did you get it? Did you get it? Did you see the reference? We're talking, did you? Like, it felt very much like that to me. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah. So just their interaction with Swan, I just thought was really cool. Like they're holding no punches, like they're not backing down and stuff. I love it so much. I love how it's going. And then when we get to the situation where Moraine helps Matt, because similar in the book, in the book though, it's kind of described as like she puts like a ward around it and kind of seal him off from the influence of the darkness or whatever. But in this, she kind of just pulls the darkness back into the dagger, which I thought was cool. But it bugged me so much, and I complained about it for probably about 3 minutes or something. But when she does that, when she pulls in the darkness and stuff out of Matt and putting it back in the dagger, it is so clear that Rand can see the weaves. Rand can see the darkness and he can see her weaving. And I'm like, you are not supposed to do that. He's not supposed to be able to see it. And much less he's not supposed to see it. And it's CGI, so it's not like an accident. So he wouldn't have seen it in real life. So he was given direction to look at it. So I don't understand why they're basically ignoring that. So am I to then take that all the channeling she has done, everybody can see the weaves? Like, doesn't that create, I feel like that creates a problem. That creates an issue within the world building a little bit. But I think in the terms of a TV show, you can probably kind of brush the issue that it causes off because there's not going to be a whole lot of discussion and explanation about how to weave and how weaving works. So there's probably not going to be as much of that as there is in the book. So it's probably something they can ignore and just do away with. But it kind of, I noticed it and it bugged me and I just have to mention it because it totally got me. But since I guess we're talking about Matt, let's go ahead and talk about the way his story kind of wraps up. So at the end, when they all go through the Waygate, Matt stays behind. So he doesn't go through the Waygate. So this is Matt being separated from everyone else again. So I'm wondering here, because Matt, after he kind of gets healed, in the books, he is unconscious. There's a point where he's just unconscious for a long time, and he basically doesn't take part in pretty much any of the events towards the end of the book. So I'm wondering if they are doing this separate, instead of, having him be comatose and stuff. So I'm wondering if they're having him stay behind and probably going to meet back up with Tom or something like that, and then like come back around either the last episode or like next season, and then we'll just jump on with the recast. Like maybe something like that'll happen. Because it almost feels like a good opportunity for Barney to kind of bow out, even though I'm severely going to miss him because I really love his interpretation of Matt, and I really love how it's done. But I really hope the new guy, whose name I don't know, does really well at it. So I'm really interested to know if that's kind of what they were doing. If that was their opportunity to kind of exit Matt out of this season and exit Barney from the show. Like, I wonder if that's what they were doing. But also, they changed the way the Waygates work. It's like a pure Aes Sedai kind of thing. Moraine uses the power to open the gate, and so I don't like that. I don't like having everything be so tied to the Aes Sedai like that. I really like the fact that it was an Ogier thing, and like they needed Loyal to get through it, because now it's like, why is Loyal even going? Like, he hasn't mentioned the idea of wanting to write the book about the last battle or anything like that. So it feels extra. Or at this point, Loyal feels like he's only there because he's in the books and he just kind of needs to be there. So because they're not using him for the things that he was needed at this point in the books. So I don't know. I'm very medium on Loyal. I don't care for the way his prosthetics look. His personality has shifted, and I'm not totally on board with it yet. And he's not being made useful in the same ways he was in the books. So Loyal so far is a little disappointing. And the implication that the wolves listened to Perrin instead of came as backup to help him out. I don't really like that, because it implies that he's controlling wolves, which is not what a wolf brother does. Like, those are his brothers and sisters. Like, they're not, his thralls. So kind of, give the wolves their respect and their agency. Don't just make them, a tool of his or anything like that. I just hope that's an interpretation, because it was Egwene explaining it to Moraine or whatever. So I'm just hoping it's, their perception and not, what the show actually goes with on how Wolf Brothers stuff works. Oh, also, let me jump back to, speaking of like waygates and teleportation type stuff, let me jump back to Moraine. So when Moraine goes to visit Swan in her room or in her, I don't even know where the hell they were. It looks like a little shack or something that was on the edge of a fishing village. But I guess it could have been a very customized room in the tower. But what I notice happens is Moraine has this thing on the wall that's like I don't know, it's like a little cupboard, but there's like a picture in it, like a wall locket type situation or whatever. And she opens that and she weaves and channels into it, and it kind of opens the only thing I can only describe it as a gateway. It opens a gateway, and she just kind of appears. She's not actually shown walking through it. She just kind of appears where Swan is. So I'm very confused about that, because to me it feels like a gateway, which they can't do yet. And if that's one of the things that I desperately don't want to be changed. Some of those big events that happen later on, I desperately don't want them to be changed, because it creates plot holes. So if they have the capability of creating gates now, then that screws up so much. Like, there's no excuse for a lot of the issues that they're going to come across. Like, there's like travel becomes like it doesn't work. Like, because if she was able to open a gate, you could open a gate directly from the Two Rivers to Tar Valon, because the two places well enough to make it work. So all that running and stuff becomes irrelevant if that's a capability. But my thought is that locket thing that was on the wall is some sort of device. It's like an Aes Sedai device that allows for like a passage to a secret room or something like that. That's basically my hope, because they can't yet. They just simply can't, because it also wouldn't make the Waygate worth anything either. So they didn't give any hint or anything like that. It's a weird thing that they put in the show. I just think it's really weird, and it kind of caused me a little bit, even right now you can probably tell it caused me confusion, and it makes me a little wary, because it's like, don't start giving them later stuff early, because that's going to create issues. Like, just don't, like, I'm all about changes and making adjustments and stuff. Just resist doing that kind of thing, because that can be, yeah, don't, like, I don't, yeah, just don't do that, because that really will cause issues later. Okay, I'm gonna let that go. But yeah, that really bugged me, and I was sitting there, I harped on it for like a while, and you can probably tell now, I really can't, it's so in my head that I can barely get over it. So what else happened in this episode? Let's go ahead and talk about a couple more things before we wrap up. So I basically talked about all the big things in the episode, all the main points that like really stuck out to me. But I want to talk a little bit more about like Swan and Moraine's plan, right? So basically she has to pay penance. They have to decide her punishment, because she's been gone and she's holding secrets and stuff like that. So between Swan and Moraine, they basically come up with the plan to exile her so that she can continue to go on her adventures and try to figure out the stuff that's going on, to continue to do her job, basically. But that basically means that they, again, have to be separated. They can't be together. So it's like super heartbreaking. And she ends up having to swear on the oath rod. Because I was wondering, we got the oath rod in the trailers and stuff. I'm like, oh, are we actually going to see an Aes Sedai, like, get the shawl and stuff? But like, no, they used it a little differently. They made her swear an oath to basically obey the command of being exiled on the oath rod, which is huge in my head because to it's basically making the unbreakable vow from Harry Potter. Like you can't break these vows. So to use the oath rod so kind of cavalier, I guess, is like it's a big deal in my head. It's like to have them do like it's not even based on honor that you're exiled. Like you cannot return. But like the thing that Swan has her say, like you will basically swear fealty to the seat and obey the rules and all this stuff. But she explicitly swears fealty to Swan Sanche, like her specifically. She like makes a comment about her being clever as a fish. I can't remember which type of fish, but like she's as clever as the Fisher Village kind of idioms to compliment her or whatever. And like they're both like crying. It's like so emotional, so heartbreaking, and like it really hit me. But I'm also like, how does nobody else in this room clearly see that this is kind of a breakup? Like, how does nobody else pay attention to this? I thought that was a lot of fun. But there's also a lot of we get a lot more little interplay and stuff between even the Ajas, even within the same Aja. Like, Moraine talks to another sister who's just so explicitly Scottish or Irish. I just loved it so much. Even her outfit like had like classic kilt, like that plaid pattern, like but it was like all different blues and stuff. Like I just thought it was so cool. She's basically, I think she's the head of the blues. That's what the implication was that I got. She was basically telling Moraine like, you have to stay here. You need to settle down, come back home, and like just be here. You're not allowed to go back out and stuff. Which caused her to tell Swan like, you need to exile me because I still got stuff to do. So I just thought it was cool. I don't know. This whole episode was just so well done. I like this so like. I liked last episode a lot, but I like this episode a lot more. This is where we get all the fun little character play, a lot of interactions. We get some fun, cute little sexy stuff. Like we get like a lot of stuff. I don't know, I dug it so much. I just thought it was so good. I think this episode like is weird because like the episode before last episode I thought was the best episode. And I think this is the best episode for totally different reasons. Just the interplay, just the politicking, the character interaction, just the things that are being set up, the promises for later. It's just all there and it's so good. And I liked it so much. So let me know in the comments down below, how did you all feel about this episode? Did you like it as much as I did? Did it have you freaking out? Did all those cool little Easter egg references, did you pick up on them too? Let me know about all that stuff in the comments down below. So as always, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you're into my reactions, make sure you check that out down on Patreon. The description is down below. So I will talk to you all next time.